It's week 31 of This Week in Film. I can't believe it.
Wow.
What a milestone.
What a big round number
A meaningless
to celebrate.
It's the weekly podcast where we get together and talk about the movies we watched over the past week. I'm Nick Panunto, joined as always by Ray Radaminki.
Yeah.
And maybe, for one of the last few times,
Say it isn't so.
Charlie Chester.
I can't believe you guys are kicking me off.
Charlie,
A long time coming.
Charlie, the numbers are in. They speak for themselves.
Yep. Numbers are down from 60 to 59.
Yep. It's
Our numbers are sky high when you are not
Listen,
on the show.
when the numbers are like that,
Yep.
that's more than 1%. No, Charlie's making some changes in his life and might have some familiar faces coming back to this show.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Mhm.
Week 33 of This Week in Film. I don't know. 34? I don't do math.
I'm not even sure myself. We'll see.
33, I think, is correct.
I might knock on your office door one morning and just pop in during
Yep,
the middle of the show. You never know.
My office door to the studio.
We are live
Though we weren't doing sound effects
from an
anymore.
undisclosed location.
Oh, jeez.
There's a
Where
lot
are
of
we? Where are
holes
we?
around here? It's very holy around here. There's Robin nearby. All right, Ray. What did you see this week?
This week, I watched Straight Outta Compton.
Straight Outta Compton.
That's right.
That's me.
Directed by F. Gary Gray and starring a bunch of guys that you've never heard of.
Except for Ice Cube's son.
Ice Cube's son, O'Shea Jackson Jr., plays Ice Cube, and he looks exactly like Ice Cube and talks exactly like Ice Cube.
Yeah, it's weird.
Very weird. All the no-name actors are very good, though, in their roles. Jason Mitchell, Corey Hawkins, Paul Giamatti's in it. That's somebody that everybody will know. He plays Jerry Heller, their NWA's manager.
And that stands for what?
We'll let you guys figure out what that stands for. It can be interpreted in many ways. But anyway, getting into the film, I kind of saw this late. This came out. When did it come out?
Late last year, right?
Yeah, around this time last year, so it's about a year old. And to rave reviews, it seemed like everybody really loved it. So I was, anxiously wanted to see it, just never got around to seeing it. So I watched it this week, and I mean, it was good, but it didn't really distinguish itself from any other biopic that I've ever seen. It was very standard in the way it was structured, and I just felt like the group itself really didn't have much adversity. Like, in the end, they all become famous, rich and famous.
Right.
Except for Eazy-E, who passes away, but from HIV.
Yeah.
And that kind of is the seminal, part of the movie at the end. Like, that's where it all, ends with. But in terms of the other characters, they have struggles with each other. I mean, the group breaks up. They have problems with their family life and everything like that. But in the end, it's kind of a feel-good story. Like, these guys came from nothing and became rich and famous. And as we know, Dr. Dre and Ice Cube are still very well off to this day. And
Dr. Dre's a billionaire
right
now. Yeah.
Billionaire, and Ice Cube has a very successful acting career.
Yeah.
So, I mean, these guys are doing well. I thought it was a fun movie. They use a lot of their music in it, so that's in there throughout. You see, all the partying they're doing, all the fun that they have. I mean, there are scenes with them struggling with the police, and dealing with the time of the world that it was, like early 90s, late
LA.
80s, LA riots, stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it was good. I just didn't. I guess it was one of those cases where I saw this movie late, and you hear all the hype about something, and stuff like that, it never lives up.
Yeah.
From what everybody says, you got to see stuff like that right away to really capture what you thought of it. So I was told, for months and months and months, this movie was awesome, and like I said, it wasn't terrible. But I just thought it was a standard biopic, which I enjoyed. I like biopics. I like finding out how stuff happens, and wondering if things were true or not. Like I still have to go back and research stuff, like because there's a couple scenes where there's a scene where Ice Cube completely defaces his the guy who runs the record label's office with a baseball bat, and I would just wonder if that's factual. That's pretty nuts.
Is that the Paul Giamatti?
No, Paul Giamatti plays their manager. This guy runs I think it's Priority Records, the record label they were signed to.
Nameless, evil, white.
Right. That's what I was going to say. Paul
Exactly.
Giamatti
Actually,
plays exactly who you think he...
Yeah, Paul Giamatti definitely plays exactly who you think he does. This guy's kind of like a nice guy who he says his hands are tied. And Ice Cube basically wants more money for his solo album that he releases. Ice Cube is the first guy to break away from NWA and go with the solo career because he felt like he wasn't being paid enough, which was rightfully so. And yeah, he smashes this guy's office with a baseball bat, and I'm like, Jesus, this really happened? This is crazy. So I don't know if our listeners are listening, maybe you can chime in and let us know if that is actually true or not.
Did he bring the bat?
I don't know where he got the bat from because he's in the meeting, and then he's like okay, he kind of accepts what the guy's saying, and then all of a sudden you see him come back with the bat. So I think he had it in his car or something. I don't know.
No.
I don't think he just walked around with a baseball bat.
I felt that was the only real moment in the whole movie. Raw moment.
You think so? Yeah.
That scene?
Well, what about the scene with them in the, there's a scene where they're in a hotel room and, there's girls everywhere and one guy shows up to the hotel room and he says his girlfriend's in there.
Oh, yeah, that was a good moment too.
And
there's a lot of people's girlfriends in there, sir.
Right, exactly. And they find the girl, your man's outside, blah, blah, blah. And they all decide to just get all their assault rifles that they have in the hotel room and walk out into the lobby of this, or not lobby, the hallway of this hotel floor and threaten this guy with huge assault rifles and are yelling at him and stuff. And yet nobody in the hotel walks out of their room. Now, I don't know, did they have the whole floor to themselves? I don't know. But that's another story. It's wow, did that really happen? Did they really harass these guys with assault rifles in the middle of a hotel room? I don't know.
Right.
But who knows? I mean, it was a crazy time. They were very rich and famous guys. Who knows what happened? But yeah, I thought all the performances are great. I thought Ice Cube's son did a great job portraying him. Like I said, he looks and talks exactly like him. And the guy who played Eazy-E, same thing, talks exactly like Eazy-E. Dr. Dre looked a little different, and you could tell his voice wasn't really the same. But yeah, I thought their performances were great. I thought Paul Giamatti was great. He was a slimy music manager who was cutting, taking money off the top.
Right.
And they don't realize it really till the end.
And he has tears in his voice when he gets intense. The classic Giamatti.
Yeah. Yeah, Paul Giamatti can grow tiresome for me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's not necessarily the same character over and over again, but it's very similar.
Mm-hmm.
And you've seen it once, you've seen it 1,000 times.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was getting at. Where I heard Paul Giamatti's in a biopic about music.
Right.
He's clearly playing the slimeball producer
Exactly.
or agent or whatever.
Yeah, so that's who he played.
The biggest departure he's ever done was the character of Rhino, and that was terrible.
Oh God, that's not even.
I've actually never seen it from start to finish.
That is
only
not
seen
the
bits and
Spider-Man
pieces.
2 that Keith rates all of his movies against.
No, it is not.
We will have another Set in Tomatoes one day. It's coming.
One of these days.
I did see the movie, obviously, right? And I had a major problem with the movie. I'm actually one of the people that didn't like the movie, and the reason I didn't like it is because of a missed opportunity I felt like the filmmakers had for okay, so the structure of the movie is an underdog, they come up,
right.
Against adversity, right? And I felt like they took the easy, safe route and I'm going to get racial on this, for white American audience comfortable to go see a movie like this. You know what I mean? And
no, I totally agree.
And so that they can relate. I'm using air quotes there to these characters and whatnot. But these guys are pioneers in their craft, and I know that it was not as easy as they made it look in the movie.
Yeah.
For them to come up. And I'm sure that they had to do some dirty things to get there, but that was part of the persona. Now, can a classically white audience take to that and like, fill the seats and enjoy that or not. I don't know, but I feel like they pussyfooted around it and went a very safe route. And we didn't get potentially a new type of underdog story, which this movie could have been, a different structure, which would have been ballsy. And I was actually annoyed that they didn't go that route. And then you come to find that like the guys that they have like the guys that produced it, are what Dre and Cube, right?
Yeah.
Produced the movie, but yet the people that write the movie are like notoriously have done other studio picks and whatnot, like those safe studio picks, and they've written only for white audiences before. So I'm like, yeah, you played it safe in a business sense, but you could have told us a really cool story here, and I don't think we got to see it. Yeah, personally,
I totally agree. And there is a director's cut, and when I was about to watch this, I had to choose, and the director's cut's like 3 hours long, and I just didn't have time to watch a 3-hour movie this week, so like I chose not to. So maybe I haven't seen the director's cut, but maybe all that extra footage maybe is put in there. I have no idea.
Yeah, I think another issue might be, and I haven't seen it, of course, clearly, but like you said, Charlie, the people who produced the movie, who created the movie, were also the stars of the movie,
right?
Or it's based on their life,
so they want themselves look good.
Like, I mean, I'm sure they're being honest to a point, but at a certain point, you can't admit to committing felonies, like ridiculous felonies, because you're saying this is your life story. I mean, it's a fictitious work, but maybe that's where they were trying to draw the line. Like, we can't really get ourselves in trouble here. If someone else was making the movie, maybe they would have gone into it in a different way. And they're also brands. Like Dr. Dre is a brand. Ice Cube is a brand. Like at this point, they're trying to maintain the image that they have now, not the image they had in 1992 or 93.
Yeah. No, in a lot of ways, yeah, you're right. It almost feels like a commercial for their brand. You know what I mean?
Oh, definitely.
And yeah, that's not the story that I thought would be interesting to see. I mean, Dre has on record abuse against him, right? Like he's spousal abuse, beating women in the past, right?
Allegedly.
Well, I thought he had charges. I don't know if it's public record or not.
Allegedly had.
But none of that is brought into the film.
Right, of course. Right. And I mean, and you see that with a lot of biopics. Is like they try to paint the person in a certain way, and I mean, you can only take. I mean, the movie's going to go one way or the other, and it chose to go this way. And I mean, it's entertaining, and it's not poorly made. Like it's cinematically, it looks good. The music goes with it, obviously, because it's their music. So it was definitely a well-made movie. It wasn't anything different. Is all I would say. Like
absolutely not.
It was a biopic about a music group, and it wasn't anything special. It was good, nothing special.
I mean, they essentially they're making songs in one of their bedrooms, and then like within 10 minutes of movie time, they got like a major deal and they're on tour.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm like,
is that not how it happened?
Give me a break. It's just like so ridiculous. I mean, like you look at 8 Mile, and that movie was all about the struggle to the record deal. The whole movie's about that, and that's why that movie's so great. And then you look at like Johnny Cash, and they don't paint him in a good light.
But that movie was terrible.
You didn't like that? Oh, I thought it was great.
Walk the Line.
Walk the Line. Well, because I watched Ray almost immediately. Like I think I watched them almost back to back, and they are beat for beat the exact same movie.
Yeah. Yeah. What about Walk Hard?
That movie is a masterpiece.
It is.
That's
brilliant.
A masterpiece that I did not appreciate when I first saw it in theaters.
Yeah, it is brilliant.
Hard. But yeah, so like I said, I thought it was okay. I enjoyed it, but I didn't think it was anything great. Like it didn't change anything for me. Cool movie, whatever.
Great discussion, guys.
Yeah,
that was great. Charlie, let's keep it going. What'd you see?
I was super psyched about the new Jason Bourne flick, so I went to go see that. Bourne. Is it called Jason Bourne or just Bourne?
It's Jason Bourne.
Jason Bourne. Anyone who doesn't know, there was a few Matt Damon films under this Bourne title, and then I guess the studios wanted to move forward with more Bourne films because they do well and it was a moneymaker for them, but I guess scheduling for Matt Damon wasn't working out, so they moved forward with another film previously with Jeremy Renner, not as Jason Bourne, but it was like an anthology. Like he was another character that went through the same training that Jason Bourne did, and it's his story. So Jason Bourne is talked about in that movie, but he doesn't, make a cameo. Needless to say, that movie, failed almost on every level.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was well, directed and whatnot, but you don't want to see the poor man's Jason Bourne. You know what I mean? It wanted to be that so bad, and they were hoping it would launch.
You want Damon or nothing.
Yeah, so you got to go all Damon.
Matt Damon.
So they get the team together again, and they do this flick, Jason Bourne, and it takes place after Jason Bourne's last adventure. Some time's passed, and he's off the grid now. He accomplished what he needed to accomplish by pretty much exposing the corruption in I think it's the CIA, and then he goes off the grid successfully. And in this movie, he has to get back in to expose some more things. There's always things you can expose, I guess, whatever. I didn't with this movie, I didn't feel like this was the sequel. It warranted, this storyline warranted the sequel. It wasn't good enough, it wasn't a good back from retirement sort of story. We jumped into it without good backstory as to what's been going on with him and why he really needs to come back. It was just kind of weak. And then on top of it, I don't know if you guys remember with the last movies, Paul Greengrass, who's the director, notoriously goes for those action sequences that are whip pans, quick cuts.
He established the shaky can fight scene.
You get sick watching it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But there's a lot of moments of clarity that Damon actually almost demands in these other movies where he's no, watch me for a little bit longer. You know what I mean? That fight scene in one of the prior movies with him beating the shit out of someone with a book is
magazine,
iconic. Yeah, with the magazine. There it does work in certain levels. This one, they jump the shark, and there are about 3 action sequences in this movie that I literally closed my eyes on for 2 minutes because I was getting so dizzy watching them, and nothing was progressing, and it was just a series of these shots over and over and over and over and over again of them going from point A to point B, car chase and whatnot, and it's so disorienting that the car chase could have been from one end of the parking lot to the other, and you wouldn't know it because of how weirdly cut it is, and all over the place, and because it's dark out and everything. That they're cheating it with extreme close-ups in fast action is so disorienting. And while maybe that worked for Greengrass in a few ways, I think a director needs to grow and challenge himself to try new things and do better, up the ante, especially if you're saying we got to do another sequel. You got to up the ante and do something different and warrant the sequel, and I don't think they did in any way.
Yeah, I feel and I haven't seen it yet, but I feel like they just threw a ton of money at Matt Damon. And Matt Damon said many times that he wouldn't do another Bourne movie unless Greengrass was involved.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess Universal just threw a ton of money at them just to get the movie made, to get money. It was just a cash grab.
I mean, let's be honest. This movie was just a vehicle to get Julia Stiles back into people's minds
bring her back
as a mainstream actress, because she's in this movie, right?
Is she in the movie?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she is.
All right, can I spoil alert? She's in it for a little bit. So why is she only in it for a little bit? It's enough to get Jason Bourne angry and fuel his rage.
Oh, does she get killed off in the first 2 minutes of the movie too?
I know from the trailer, I definitely saw her in it.
Like she's got probably like 10 minutes,
and
then
as soon as I saw Julia Stiles in the trailer, I was like,
do they go for a drive over a bridge?
I was like, really? Like, she has what has she done other than the Jason Bourne movies and 10 Things I Hate About You?
And I
Save
feel
The Last Dance.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Oh.
It like
I loved
it wasn't bad.
Oh, it was awesome.
Who was the bad guy in that? I know Iago,
was,
but who played
It
him?
was Josh Hartnett.
Josh Hartnett, yeah.
Oh, Hartnett, yeah.
That was like the last decent movie Josh Hartnett made.
It feels like I'm watching Matt Damon fulfill like a friendship promise to Julia Stiles that I'll get you in another movie by watching this. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's not like.
Did they bring Joan Allen back and all too, or
No, wasn't she killed in one of? Or maybe she was arrested. I don't know. But
what about David Strathairn, however you say his name?
the
Strathairn.
dude with the pointy nose?
Yeah.
The pointy nose. I can't even talk.
No.
It's Tommy Lee Jones in this one, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah, Tommy Lee Jones plays the
government
corrupt
guy.
government guy.
There's always a government guy that's running like a secret task force
Yeah.
that nobody knows about, but there's like 50 people in a room
Right.
that nobody knows about, and they're all, I guess all
like in Suicide Squad.
right, exactly like Suicide Squad.
We didn't talk about that at all, where she just executes all the people in the room.
Yeah, and like the good guy, Rick Flag, is like, no judgment here.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you should be judging. You're
Yeah.
the good guy.
You
Idiot.
supposedly did things in a war zone. Like
Somehow we got back to
things can
Suicide
happen,
Squad.
yes, but you just murdered four or five government agents who were helping you.
And to rebuttal, since I couldn't defend myself last week, I've seen Suicide Squad twice now.
You know what? Let's just talk about it.
I think what annoys me the most about Suicide Squad is how many stories I had to hear about how much fun the cast had on the set.
Oh my God. Or Jared Leto. I read the funniest thing ever was like, there was like this blogger.
This is just happening.
was going off, and he was saying like, "Oh, we deserve Jared Leto as the Joker. He's like takes it so seriously. He's a character actor. He's the Joker we deserve. They look at all the crazy things he did on set, throwing like a dead pig on the table during the table read, like sending used condoms to like all the actors and their trailers. Like that's Joker stuff. That's Joker." And the rebuttal to it, like one other blogger just wrote, "Yo, bro, he was in the movie for 7 minutes."
Yeah.
And I was like, that is amazing.
It's Jason Bourne, huh?
Jason Bourne. I do not recommend it.
Oh, really?
No.
No,
I mean,
is that bad?
I'm
Not
definitely
even
going to
for
check it
a cool
out.
action flick, or
It's nauseating. Like, there's 3 of those action sequences, and if you can walk out of a movie, go to the bathroom, come back, and not missed any progressive plot, I think that's a problem in a flick. You have 2 hours at most to really condense down and tell a good character arc or multiple character arcs. And if like you can pause that long and nothing happens, I personally think you're failing as a storyteller. And you could have done that like 3 times in this movie.
did we talk about how we think Harley Quinn is pregnant? In the Suicide Squad movie?
She's got to be pregnant.
You mentioned it.
Did I mention? Okay.
Yeah.
Charlie.
But
agreed.
Charlie says after he watched it a second time.
Yeah, I mean, Nick had mentioned that like there's little onesies in the Joker's lair, and you look at it now, and they are at the center of attention in that room. And then
there's like a throwaway line in there, isn't there?
I don't.
Oh
remember.
no, it's when she's imagining her.
Yeah, she's got the kids in in like her perfect life or whatever, but she at one point goes nuts on Diablo for killing his own kids, and she's like, "You fucking own that." Like, why in that moment did she go nuts? You know what I mean? Like, maybe she lost. I'm thinking she lost the kid, and I think that was like probably the storyline that involved her and the Joker so much because. Wasn't there like rumors that like there's a storyline that the Joker is trying to kill Harley Quinn
Yeah,
because
he's
angry at her. So what happened?
He kicks her. He's trying to kill her when the helicopter's crashing.
Right.
But Jason Bourne, huh?
Yeah, Jason Bourne. So you have to actually now put the Suicide Squad poster up on our podcast again.
I think that was last week's episode was called Squadicide. I was pretty happy with that one. All right, so Charlie says no go
on Jason
Bourne.
Yeah, not feeling it.
And he enjoyed Suicide Squad a little more the second time.
It was a little bit more fun the second time.
Just real quick with Jason Bourne. The Bourne, I think it's in the Bourne Ultimatum or the Supremacy. One of the second two. Mm-hmm. The scene where he jumps from the window.
Oh yeah,
into the other window and doesn't like the camera operator follows him.
Yeah,
that is like one of the coolest scenes in terms of like production.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Just like film. I think I can never remember.
Yeah, just a cool action sequence. That reminds me of a thing I meant to bring up during my Total Recall conversation. The Colin Farrell Total Recall, they totally steal that shot.
They rip it off?
Step for step. They follow Colin Farrell jumping from a window into another window. And I'm like, they stole that from Bourne.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, if Paul Greengrass and his crew are able to get one of those moments in each movie, which at that point they had something like that.
Right.
You know, there was the magazine thing. There was, then the next movie's got like that or whatever. This movie doesn't offer that. They try to do something like with like a car chase scene that ends up going through a building and I'm like, this has been done in every action movie that's jumping the shark. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, there's nothing.
It sounds like they're just trying to follow the formula. Like, hand-to-hand fight, cool car chase, another hand-to-hand fight. He's got a sniper rifle on a rooftop.
Right.
Government official that is corrupt.
Yeah, the Bourne movies set the standard for all that stuff. And now it's been copycatted over and over again to the point where they're just doing what they started, but at this point it's so saturated that...
Yeah, they're ripping themselves off. Yeah,
right.
So, I mean, even James Bond caved into Bourne. That's how we got Casino Royale, which is an awesome movie.
Yeah.
This is going to be a complicated title this week.
No, absolutely.
Casino Squad.
Did you guys see Green Zone? That was Greengrass's last movie.
Yeah, terrible.
It's so uncomfortable to watch, right? Because you add this shaky camera, tight action sequence sort of thing, and now you're doing it with night vision goggles, and I'm like, I almost threw up. I'm like, this is way too much. So like, Greengrass has got to change the game up big time now. I don't. You'd be remiss to continue
that's a shame,
this.
because I usually like his movies. I didn't see Green Zone.
Don't.
It's no good.
Don't. It's rough.
Well, moving along in the terrible movie direction, I watched a documentary this week. Oh, God damn it! I got to look it up because it has a complicated title.
Lost Souls?
No, and then it has a subtitle.
Oh, colon.
Yeah. So I'm typing it up on our office computer. So I watched a documentary this week called Lost Soul: The Doomed Journey of Richard Stanley's Island of Dr. Moreau. It's a 2014 documentary about the making of the 1996 Island of Dr. Moreau with Val Kilmer and Marlon Brando. It is an absolute train wreck of a film. And after watching this documentary, I watched The Island of Dr. Moreau because I had never seen it. And it's everything you think a bad movie can be. And it was so bad that when I finished watching it, I had to watch the documentary Lost Soul, the whatever journey of Richard Stanley's Island of Dr. Moreau, again, in order to just kind of try to wrap my head around how this could happen.
You film schooled it.
I mean, and then while I'm watching the documentary a second time, I'm just diving deep into just trivia about the movie, like just rumors and all this stuff. So basically, if you're unfamiliar, Richard Stanley directed a movie in the early 90s called Hardwire, and another movie called Dust Devil. I've never seen either of them, but they're pretty...
Dust Devil's pretty cool.
I hear Hardwire is cool, too. Like, everybody seems to enjoy it. But they're two pretty successful genre films, and they got Richard Stanley mainstream attention, and his big plan is he wants to remake The Island of Dr. Moreau. He goes with New Line Cinema. They're on board, and somehow they get Marlon Brando on board, which takes it from a smaller budget movie and starts pushing the budget up. And as the budget goes up on a film, there's more and more pressure on the filmmakers to, one, deliver a film, and two, it has to be successful, and your future career is riding on this. So the documentary starts out talking about his past, and immediately he starts talking about how he's into witchcraft, and as he goes to leave on this journey, and from the beginning, they should have shut it down right away. Bruce Willis was originally attached with Marlon Brando and James Woods. Bruce Willis got divorced from Demi Moore, so he bailed on the movie because of personal and legal reasons. So then they got Val Kilmer involved, and this was right around the time that Val Kilmer became a superstar.
Right.
And just as they're getting ready to start principal photography and stuff, the director gets called up to Japan, where the premiere of Batman Forever is happening, and Val Kilmer was Batman in Batman Forever, and Val Kilmer is going all Hollywood. He's like, I don't want to do your movie anymore. I want to do less days. I want 40% of the shooting days that I'm scheduled for. And so the director goes, okay, well, you could be James Woods' character. That's 40% of the screen time right there. You can just be that guy. Val Kilmer's like, fine, whatever. Right? And because of Bruce Willis bailing, if Val Kilmer left, they were going to shut the movie down.
Right.
Totally. Another warning sign, like this movie shouldn't happen. And then the documentary goes into how that night he was having terrible dreams about hyenas, and he called his mother, and there was lightning flashes in her room, and he has a witch doctor in London who was casting spells, but he's also a radiologist, and now he has terminal cancer, and the cancer breaks his hip, and he's got like a festering just illness. And because the doctor gets sick, and I guess he dies. It's implied that the doctor, whose name is Skip, dies. Mm-hmm. The magic that was set out for him early on disappears, and so the black cloud falls onto his production. So very early on in the production, because they're interviewing the producers of the movie and some of the stars, it's clear that the Stanley has no clue what he's doing. He's in way over his head. He can't control Val Kilmer. Val Kilmer wants out.
Right.
But he can't get out because legally he has to be there because he signed everything.
And he's notoriously a pain in the ass.
Yes.
In terms of
that's the other thing.
Making movies.
And so Val Kilmer is just making trouble left and right, constantly making trouble in a way like I can't stand Val Kilmer now. Like thinking about what he did. Now apparently he was also going through a divorce,
right.
And he found out about it like on his way to the shoot. Like he read the newspaper and found out he was getting a divorce.
I'm sure that he probably caused his own divorce.
I'm sure he
based
did
on
too, but,
character.
It's still bad news to find.
There's other evidence on other films of him just being a problem.
Now, this all like through third party interviews at this point, or is there footage of all this stuff? Or?
It's all kind of just interviews on top of some B-roll, but it's really well put together. But so Val Kilmer gets to the island, and they're shooting like north of Australia. I won't get into all that. But so Val Kilmer's causing nothing but trouble. By day 4, Richard Stanley has been fired. He's off the project. They get rid of him. So for the second half of the documentary, they still have to make this movie because they've put all of this time and money. And The Island of Dr. Moreau is the story of this mad scientist who combines human DNA with animal DNA to make these mutant hybrids. And And like this story, like animals and like who is God? Am I God? Are you God? Is there a God? Like all that, like existential stuff. They bring John Frankenheimer on to salvage what is left.
The great John Frankenheimer.
Questionable now, because John Frankenheimer is just a straight up asshole. He shows up on set. Faruka Zalt. What's her name? Faruka Balk from The Craft.
Yeah.
Faruza.
You mean
weird hot? She's
what every goth girl in high school thinks she looks like.
Yeah.
She's the only one
the
who
Water
gets it
Boy.
right. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Weird hot. Ray's right.
Yeah.
Like dirty hot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And anyway, so she's friends with Richard Stanley. He gets kicked off, and she starts this big thing like, we should all quit. And her agent goes, you can't quit. You'll never work again. You can't just quit. So she goes, fine, I'll work. Then the Frankenheimer comes on, and he says, listen, we all got to work together. I've done this before. Let's just get through it. She says within 3 days, it's just swearing and screaming at people. They're doing daily rewrites. They're improvising on set. No one cares. No one notices. They're just filming
They're
movie.
Just doing it just to do it.
Val Kilmer is doing whatever he wants. At some point, I mean, when you watch the actual movie, it starts off pretty interesting. Like it's this. Have you ever seen the original?
Yes, I have.
It starts off after a plane crash, and there's 3 guys in a raft, and they're all fighting each other to the death because they're in the middle of the ocean.
Right.
And they're fighting over the last drop of water, basically. One guy survives, and he's rescued by this boat that Val Kilmer is on. Val Kilmer is the assistant to Dr. Moreau, who is Marlon Brando. Anyway, so everything's going along. Like the first 5 minutes of the movie, you're like, this is pretty good. I'm into this. And then all of a sudden, Val Kilmer's delivering his line, and all of a sudden there's like a switch goes off where he goes, I'm just going to make up my own shit. Where he goes to give the guy who's been rescued, who's the protagonist of the movie, I guess.
Who Val Kilmer was supposed to play originally.
Yes.
He's supposed to be
the
protagonist.
The main guy, Douglas, or whatever his name is.
Wasn't David Thewlis is the guy who eventually plays him, I think?
Yeah. He does not appear in the documentary, but Rob Morrow, who was originally... The main character changed so many times till they landed on this English guy. Rob Morrow, who was on... I can't remember. I think his name's Rob Morrow. You'd know him if you saw him. He's that guy. He's that guy if you see him.
Oh yeah, that guy.
He bails on the movie too. Anyway, in this scene on the boat, the guy's on like his deathbed, but he's got an IV and Val Kilmer's trying to save his life. Val Kilmer's like, "Tell me what your name is. You're on a boat. You're safe." And then he goes to give the guy an injection, and the guy goes, "Oh, what are you doing? What are you doing?" "I'm just giving you an injection. It's going to help you sleep." And it's got a lot of crazy stuff in it too, like stuff I like to put in. You're like, what the hell just happened? And so from there, like you can tell what was scripted and what's not. They're walking around. All of a sudden, he's like locked in his room. Like, oh man, it's such a bad movie that is just. It's just they just took. You could tell they took. And this was the director's cut that I watched.
Who's directed? Frankenheimer?
Frankenheimer's. Yeah, there's no surviving footage of Stanley's. So anyway, the movie itself is a disaster. But back to the documentary. So everything terrible that's happening is happening. Then it's time for Marlon Brando to show up. In Marlon Brando's defense, months, like I think 2 months earlier or sooner, his daughter committed suicide. So he was dealing with that emotionally, but Marlon Brando is also notorious for behavior and antics and just generally causing problems on a movie set. And one of the producers of the movie says, "I don't even know why we got Marlon Brando. We just did Don Juan DeMarco with him, and he was an absolute nightmare. Like, why would we go right back with him again?"
Right.
And he comes through. He comes through as an absolute nightmare of a person to work with.
Why did they stack the deck against themselves? It seems like they would have known these things. Like notoriously in Hollywood that these people were difficult to work with. So they did it for themselves.
If Marlon Brando says he wants to be in a movie, I think he gets to be in a movie. You know, and then
it's also, you know,
and then Val Kilmer was a hot star at the time. If Val Kilmer wants to be in your movie, you know,
you put their names on the poster, and you're gonna hopefully make some money.
The producers,
that's what they say in the thing is that it's Val Kilmer who's going to get the asses in the seats. It's not Richard Stanley. It's Val Kilmer that's bringing people to the theater.
It seems like the producers are the boobs here, because like they know that there's these problem actors that they're putting in there, and then they attach this essentially a first-time director, studio director, who's not going to know how to wrangle big ego like that.
Yeah, well, they go into the movie about how Stanley forced himself into the role of the director. He initially sold the idea to New Line with him as the director, and then New Line, behind his back, gave it to Roman Polanski. And so Richard Stanley loses his mind and says, I demand a meeting with Marlon Brando, because Brando's already agreed to be the lead, or the Dr. Moreau character. And Brando loves him. And he says, I'm only doing the movie. I'm not doing the voice. I'm only doing the movie if Richard Stanley makes it. And 4 days into production, Stanley is gone. They've brought in John Frankenheimer, who is known for being a rough, gruff, old school kind of director, but he also knows how to handle
big stars
and their egos. Frankenheimer can't handle them. They're out of control. Brando shows up on set. He shows up on set, like you've seen the clips of Marlon Brando, like painted white, like wearing white linen on top of like this thing. All Brando's ideas. Brando said, I want to do this. And they're all like, just do it. Just do it. Let's get the F out of here. It was a movie production that was supposed to take 4 to 6 weeks. It took over 6 months. And you can see the pain on all of these actors' faces.
Wow.
I mean, they talk about near mutinies on the set, because at one point, Val Kilmer and Marlon Brando won't come out of their trailers because one of them won't leave first. Neither one of them wants to come out second. There's only one scene in the whole movie where the two of them are together. And so you have all these half pig men, half dog men, waiting in makeup in Australia, like hot Australia, waiting all night until neither one of them comes out, and then they just cancel it. So then take the makeup off, you know. It's a really wild story. I highly recommend checking it out. It's insane what these people went through to make this horrible movie.
It's crazy. I mean, from the launch of it, I'm already like, my eyebrow raises, like, why are you making this movie? That story, okay, it might have been topical at the time it was written, but it is a flawed story. It is not cinematic story.
I disagree. I think you could make this a good story. Like, the guy had some good ideas about setting it in modern times and kind of stuff, but the movie doesn't take place in modern times. It takes place in yesterday's modern times. It's a weird thing. And then you just take the movie away from the guy because he can't handle it. The budget went from, I think, what did they say, $5 million to $40 million, like almost overnight. And the guy just collapses. He actually ends up in the movie as an extra because he loses his mind after he gets fired. They take him to the airport, like the two drivers take him to the airport for him to get on the plane back to Hollywood. They drop him off. The next morning, the guy gets a call. One of the drivers gets a call, and the guy says, "Where's Richard Stanley?" And they're like, he wasn't on the plane. I dropped him off. He left. And he was living upstream of the production in the woods, like living in an old bathtub. And
what?
Yeah, he's living in an old bathtub. Now, here's the other thing. When Frankenheimer came on, originally they only had 10 or so extras that they were just reusing, I guess, a lot. Frankenheimer said, I need more, and I need like weirdos and freaks. So they put out this call for amputees and like hippies and stuff, like with like the dreadlocks, just like, earthy looking people. Yes. And there's like one scene right when they introduce all, like, it's so weird. You go to this one wide shot of the compound and there's this no-legged dude doing weird dances, and you're like, why is there a no-legged man here with all the dog people, And anyway, so the people that they brought in, the weirdos were also living out in the woods, and they were talking to some of the drivers because everybody was just crammed together for months. And they said, oh, yeah, did you hear about the crazy guy in the woods who just keeps ranting and raving all night long about how Val Kilmer ruined his life? And they're like, wait a minute, where is he? And they point him out, and there he is, Richard Sterling, or I keep saying his name, Stanley. And so Stanley makes friends with these guys. He's cooled off a bit. Like it's been months now since he got kicked off the project. So he calms down and he says, I'd love to see what the guys are doing. So they sneak him onto the set because they got nothing to lose at this point.
Right.
They sneak him onto the set. They put him in an extra's costume, and he's in the film as like this dog beast man wearing a mask.
It's like depressing. Everything about this is just sad to me.
It is great. I kind of want to watch it again.
What? Which one?
Both. the whole adventure.
I don't understand how you think a movie with pig people in it could possibly be a good movie.
I will say that the effects, the creature effects, were done by the Stan Winston's guys.
Yeah,
they look great.
Yeah, I do remember seeing it in theaters, and I'm like, yeah, this look,
The best looking character in the movie is a cat monster that they kill immediately. Like immediately in the movie, they shoot it in the head with like a dart gun or whatever. And you're like, but that thing looks so great. I guess it had to go because they couldn't pay for that every day.
Wasn't there like if I remember correctly, didn't Marlon Brando have like a little mini-me?
Oh, yeah. God, man. Yeah, that's like where weird. Mini-me came from. Yeah. You got another 40 minutes? Yeah. That's where Mini-Me comes from. If you... It's I don't even want to... I can't get into it. But I will say... There is 2 very good sequences in the movie. I'll say 3. I like the very beginning. There's the sequence where Marlon Brando and his Mini-Me are playing the grand piano, and Mini-Me's playing the tiny grand piano.
I remember that.
Which they make fun of in an Austin Powers movie later.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other scene that I really liked is when the beasts break into Dr. Moreau's house, and Dr. Moreau comes down and he's got a plate of milk and cookies, and he goes, "Oh, I heard a noise." That is a really good scene. It's a shame that it's surrounded by such garbage, but the performances in that scene, especially with, you just see these 6 men wearing like wolf costumes basically, and Brando, you could see what talent he has for delivering these seemingly terrible lines in a terrible scene in an awful movie, and this is an unbelievably captivating scene. Like I loved it. I rewound it and watched it again. I liked it so much. But yeah, check them out. The Island of Dr. Moreau and Lost Souls documentary about the making of the movie. Oh
man, that sounds like a long weekend.
They're both. I think the documentary is actually longer than the movie.
Wow.
So that brings us to everyone's favorite segment, where we read the answers to last week's Ray's Random Ray quest.
Yeah.
And last week's question was, what is your favorite
ensemble
big cast ensemble movie? And Judy says The Outsiders, which I have never seen.
Wow.
Yeah.
Shame on you.
I know.
Shame on you, sir.
At this
Stay
point,
gold, pony boy.
Yeah. And Judy says, do it for Johnny. And Matt, who lives out in Montana, says his favorite...
Montana Matt.
Yeah. His favorite is the same answer he had from last week, The Departed.
The Departed.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good one. I think
That's
mine's
his favorite.
Magnolia.
Magnolia.
I love Magnolia.
Yeah. I think that's my favorite.
There's no better beginning to a movie than Magnolia.
One of Tom Cruise's
except for maybe Road
best performances in my
opinion. Yeah.
Everybody, yeah.
Okay.
He should have won an Oscar for that.
Yeah, he was awesome in that. So my question this week, since I watched Straight Outta Compton, which was a biopic about NWA, the famous rap group, I want to know, what band or musical artist would you like to see someone make a biopic of that they haven't done already? Because NWA was one of those groups that for a long time people said a movie should be made about them because they were so influential and stuff. And movie finally got made and everybody seemed to like it. So what new biopic do you think should be made?
about an artist or musical group.
I want that Counting Crows biopic.
Yeah. Hey, that guy tore through a lot of ass. That would be a good one.
Beastie Boys for me.
Beastie Boys. You know what? As I was watching the movie, I was thinking about that. I was like, you know what? The Beastie Boys documentary would be pretty cool, or awesome. Biopic would be pretty cool. Yeah. That's a good answer.
All right, Charlie, what have you got to plug?
Boy Zero is going to be distributed nationally through Diamond Distribution. It's basically any graphic novel or comic book in the country, from like Avengers to famous Z comic book. Every comic book character you've ever known gets distributed through Diamond. Diamond is the ones that puts it in brick and mortar stores. So from what I understand, my Boy Zero is going to be getting distributed in November. So go to your local comic book shop and you can order it there come November for Christmas. Great Christmas gift.
What a great gift for loved ones.
Yep.
Put it under the tree.
Boy Zero.
Ray, have you anything to plug?
No, I got nothing to plug. Just happy to be here, and sad to see that Charlie's going to be leaving us, but hopefully he'll stop back.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll see Charlie from time to time.
Yeah, guest appearances.
If you're listening to us on the Podcast Radio Network, I want to say thank you for listening. Be sure to check us out on SoundCloud, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, iTunes, Stitcher, Google+, and thisweekinfilmpodcast.com. Please rate, review, and share our show if you like us. Make a comment somewhere. Let us know you're out there listening. Answer Ray's random request.
Please answer my question.
Join us and be a part of the show.
Well, one more question. I forgot to ask.
You could be the new Charlie.
Charlie, in the Jason Bourne film, do they play the Moby song, "Extreme Ways"? They have to, right?
Yeah, they at the end. They do it, and it's and there's another classic thing in the Bourne movies, like when he's like floating in the middle of the ocean, and all of a sudden like he twitches and that song starts playing.
Right.
That's fucking iconic. And in here, he's walking down the street.
Gotcha.
In a park.
Sorry, I didn't mean to get back on that. But
yeah, it's just so.
The other thing about Suicide Squad is, I guess that's the end of the reel. So we'll see you next week in film.